Good afternoon, everyone. This is our special needs assignment based on teaching stages. Our group members are Christine Hines, Ida Williams, Grantley Monctor, and Olaf Stellingberg. This assignment is based on teaching stages in special education. It is intended to provide you with understanding of special needs/disabilities. At the end of this assignment, you will be enlightened on the teaching stages, who developed them, objective of these teaching stages/methods, and how these teaching methods are used in the classroom.
Good evening. I will be looking at response to intervention, also known as RTI. Response to intervention is a system put in place by schools to provide a high-end education for pupils with disability to help them thrive in the academic area. Response to intervention was emerged from the 2004 reauthorization of the Pupils with Disabilities Education Act. The objectives of this response to intervention are to identify struggling students orally and give them the support they need to thrive academically. And the goal is for the schools to intervene or step in and start helping before a student falls really far behind or falls short in the school system. How response to intervention is used? From research, most schools use RTI to intervene prior to special education referrals. For example, if a student is struggling, him or her teacher, will use test scores or other measures to measure the progress of the student and choose a suitable intervention strategy to help this child learn. If a child does not respond to the initial intervention, more focused interventions are used to help this pupil or this child master the skill, whereby the parents of this child will be called in to help this child with a better intervention process. Discrete trials. This is a very, not to say tedious, but important stage of teaching in the special education sector. Discrete trial teaching involves the breaking down into smaller pieces and smaller sub-skills individually. For example, if an initial instructions was like, example, the teacher said, touch your nose, a prompt or a cue or a hint will be used by the teacher to help this child respond correctly. The teacher then points to the child's nose. A response given by the child touches their nose after giving this hint or cue by this teacher. An appropriate consequence, such as the correct response, is receiving an award designed to motivate the child to respond correctly again in the future. So this little hint or this cue was given by this teacher to this child to help them with the motivation strategy. And by giving this child a hint or a cue, you can also say, after you get this child being able to do the action or doing what was told by his or her teacher, you can either say, nice job touching your nose, or teacher gives the child a sticker, a round of applause, and also after you can have a pause between consecutive trials. Like if the child doesn't get it in the first time, you can give them a pause, motivate them to finding the right answer and so on. And then you wait 5 seconds to a minute, let me say, before beginning a next trial. Discrete trial was first established back in the 1980s by the famous Dr. Ivor Lovaas. who developed discrete trial training as a technique for working with children who are autistic, sorry, and or also on the spectrum. Discrete trial training, or DTT, is used to help autistic children be able to learn new skills. These skills range from very simple to more complex, depending on the child's specific need, and to help the autistic children develop a more of an independent sense of helping themselves. But by this approach, you shouldn't be able to make these children mask their autism or fit in with the social norms because they are different. Discrete trial data are usually collected on the outcome of each trial to monitor students' progress. In an individual discrete trial, data may be collected on whether a child responds correctly, required a prompt, or responded incorrectly. Correct and incorrect responses are totaled to determine percentage rate and perform level of the child. Collected data may be analyzed to identify relevant patterns in responding, including increasing or decreasing the target in behaviors in these autism or autistic pupils.
And now I'll be just telling you about the teach method and the Melo teaching strategies. The teach method, which the teaching method, which stands for the treatment of education of autistic and communication handicapped children method, was specifically developed for children with autism spectrum disorder. This method of teaching was developed at the University of North Carolina by Dr. Eric Skopler and Dr. Robert Wichler in the 1960s. Objectives were provide structure in order to support the learner to understand what they are learning and what is of them. The teach method relies on the core principles of structure teaching. These principles are the organization of the physical environment, a predictable sequence of activities, visual schedules, routines and flexibility work, activity, system, and usually structured activities. Now, I'll be telling you about the Melo teaching strategies. The Melo teaching strategies is a practice that involves manipulating or arranging stimuli in a preschool child's natural environment to create a setting that encourages them to engage in a target behavior. Melo teaching strategies was first described by Hart and Rogers Warren in 1978 as a collection of naturalistic instructional procedures that build on individual teaching methods described by Hart and Riskley in 1975. The broad goal of the Melo teaching is to increase the child's use of specific requesting behaviors. Related goals include teaching related grammatically related forms of vocabulary. Thank you.
Now I will enlighten you on two of these teaching stages, who developed them, how they are used in classroom, and two objectives of them. First, we have differentiated instructions. Carol Ann Tomlinson developed differentiated instruction. She developed it to adjust the content, process, and products of a lesson to improve the likelihood of students' engagement and achievement. Two objectives of differentiated instructions are as follows. Number one, to meet each student's individual interests, needs, and strengths. Number two, aims to include all students for a higher motivation to learn, participate in lifelong learning. How differentiated instruction is used in the classroom. Differentiated instruction can be used in many ways. Example, creating learning station, using task cards, implementing reflection and goal setting exercising. Creating learning stations. This simply means that when catering for all learners, we need to have different materials so as to get through to all differently abled learners. Number 2, using task cards. This means we ask students to focus on one problem or task at a time so as to avoid distractions and confusion. For example, let's say we have John. This is John's task card. His task to focus on during a period of a lesson, let's say mathematics, is to pack up all the counters when he is finished using them. Next we have Ashley. Her task is to color all the squares in the box. If they are focusing on their task, then they won't have distraction and confusion. Next we have implementing reflections and goal setting exercises. Give students a chance to stop and think about and reflect on recently completed work or until, so that when moving forward they don't make the same mistakes. Next teaching stage is social story. Carol Gray developed social story in the year 1991. 2 objectives of social story are as follows: to improve the child or adult's understanding by simply sharing social information, to explain social situations to autistic children and help them to learn ways of behaving in social situations. How is social story used? Social stories are used to teach desirable social behaviors to students with disabilities and disorders. In other words, what to do and what to say in situations that might be overwhelming, confusing, or foreign to them.
Errorless learning. Developed by psychologist Charles Foster in the 1950s and further upon by B.F. Skinner, this teaching method focuses on mitigating erroneous answers that a child can have by giving prompts, gestures, and hints. The intent is to ensure that there will always be a correct answer offered by the child. The objectives. The intent of errorless learning is to get rid of errors during the learning process, which can be help and prevent negative reinforcement or frustration. It can be particularly effective for individuals who struggle with learning and have a history of negative experience with failure. How it works. Step 1. Identify the skill to be taught and how you will know the learner has mastered the skill. 2. Identify the level of prompt needed to ensure correct response. Step 3. Begin the teaching trial. Repeat trials systematically. Feed prompts to ensure continued correct responses until the learner is able to respond independently at the level identified during step 1. This learning teaching strategy can also be integrated into virtual platforms since it is very simple to do, and prompts can be used in the form of pictures, gestures, body language, and those kind of things. Number 7, direct instruction. What is direct instruction? Conceptualized by Siegfried Engelmann and Wesley Becker in the 1960s, direct instruction teaches pupils, students, in a strategically planned and choreographed setting with well-developed lesson plans. Its aim is to drastically reduce in misinformation and misunderstanding by limiting what is taught to only what is needed to gain mastery, thus improving the learning process. Direct instruction operates on 5 key philosophies. All children can be taught, all children can improve academically in terms of self-image, all teachers can succeed if provided with adequate training and materials. Low performers and disadvantaged learners must be taught at a faster rate than typically occurs if they are to catch up to their higher performing peers. All details of instruction must be controlled to minimize the chance of students misinterpreting the information being taught and to maximize the reinforcing effects of the instruction. How it works. Instruction is provided for pupils based on their level of need. Pupils are assessed at the onset of each program to ascertain where they have acquired mastery and to highlight the areas where remediation is needed. Pupils of similar needs are then grouped together. The program is structured to ensure the mastery of skills and assimilation of content. Pupils are introduced gradually to skills and content so as to not overwhelm them. They learn, apply, then move on to the next stage. Teaching is modified to each student's specific need and pace of learning. This allows for each pupil to be catered to in their comfort and give them a chance to elevate onto the new stage of the program. Programs are reanalyzed and revised prior to being implemented for a new batch of learners. Direct instruction is highly adaptive, and can incorporate other teaching methods to enhance its viability and effectiveness. Therefore, it can be used virtually, expanding its range and increasing the possibilities for pupils to have access to specialists remotely. Number 8, pivotal response. Developed by Robert Kegel and Dr. Lynn Kern Kegel of Stanford University, it was previously called the natural language paradigm. This approach has been used since the 1970s. Pivotal response treatment, or PRT, is a behavioral treatment for autism. This therapy is play-based and initiated by the child. PRT is based on the principles of applied behavior analysis. Some of the objectives include development of communication and language skills, increasing positive social behaviors, relief for disruptive self-stimulatory behaviors. The PRT therapist targets pivotal areas of a child's development instead of working on one specific behavior. By focusing on pivotal areas, PRT produces improvement across the other areas of social skills, communication, behavior, and learning. Pivotal areas include motivation, response to multiple cues, self-management, initiation of social interaction. Motivation strategies are important parts of PRT approach. This emphasizes natural reinforcement. How it works. Each program is tailored to meet the goals and needs of the individual person or his or her everyday routine. A session typically involves 6 segments. Language, play, social skills are targeted with both structured and unstructured interactions. The focus of each session changes as the person makes progress to accommodate more advanced goals and needs. PRT programs usually involve 25 or more hours per week. Everyone involved in the child's life is encouraged to use PRT methods consistently in every part of his or her life. PRT has been described as a lifestyle adopted by the whole family. This, too, can be configured for virtual access since it requires specialized training and skills that sometimes our local areas may not have.